Marie Antoinette, a name synonymous with opulence, excess, and, ultimately, tragic downfall, remains one of history's most captivating and misunderstood figures. Her life was a whirlwind of privilege, political maneuvering, and relentless public scrutiny, culminating in her execution during the French Revolution. Born Maria Antonia Josepha Johanna von Habsburg-Lorraine in Vienna, Austria, in 1755, she was the 15th and last child of Empress Maria Theresa of Austria and Emperor Francis I. Her birth was celebrated with extravagant festivities, marking the continuation of the powerful Habsburg dynasty. As a pawn in the complex game of European dynastic alliances, Maria Antonia's destiny was sealed early. Her parents viewed a marriage to the future King of France, Louis Auguste, as a vital strategic move to strengthen Austria's position against its rivals. The prospect of sending their daughter to a foreign court, particularly to France, a nation often viewed with suspicion by Austria, was not undertaken lightly. However, the potential benefits for the Habsburg Empire outweighed the emotional cost. In 1770, at the tender age of 14, Maria Antonia arrived in France to meet her future husband, Louis Auguste, who was then Dauphin, heir to the French throne. The journey was long and arduous, filled with pomp and ceremony designed to impress the French court. Louis Auguste, known for his introverted nature and lack of strong leadership qualities, presented a stark contrast to his vivacious and spirited Austrian bride. Their initial relationship was strained by their differing personalities and the absence of a consummated marriage for several years. The Dauphin, struggling with a perceived lack of masculine prowess, avoided physical intimacy with his new wife, a source of considerable embarrassment and frustration for the French court and the Austrian government. Rumors of his sexual frustrations and his involvement with Madame de Lamballe began to circulate. Maria Antonia, feeling isolated and unhappy in her new environment, sought solace in fashion, entertainment, and the company of close friends. She began to cultivate a reputation for extravagance and frivolity, which would later be used against her. In 1774, Louis Auguste ascended the throne as King Louis XVI, thrusting Marie Antonia into the role of Queen of France. The transition was far from seamless, as she faced resentment from the French aristocracy and struggled to adapt to the intricacies of French court life. The early years of Louis XVI's reign were marked by political instability and economic hardship. France was deeply in debt due to costly wars and extravagant spending by previous monarchs, and the burden fell disproportionately on the common people. Marie Antoinette's reputation for extravagance only exacerbated the situation. Her lavish spending on clothing, jewelry, and elaborate parties fueled public resentment and earned her the derogatory nickname Madame Deficit, Mrs. Deficit. The Petit Trianon, a small chateau on the grounds of the Palace of Versailles, became Marie Antoinette's personal refuge. There, she created a pastoral idyll, complete with a farm and a rustic village, where she could escape the rigid formality of court life. The Trianon, however, further alienated the public. Critics accused her of indifference to the plight of the common people and of creating a frivolous world for herself, while France teetered on the brink of financial ruin. Marie Antoinette's attempts to influence Louis XVI's policies were often met with resistance from the established political factions. While she genuinely cared for her adopted country, her Austrian origins made her a target of suspicion and distrust. The influence of Axel von Fersen, a Swedish nobleman and close friend of the Queen, further fueled rumors and intrigue. Their relationship, while likely platonic, was widely speculated upon and used as ammunition by the Queen's enemies. The summoning of the Estates General in 1789, an assembly representing the three estates of French society, the clergy, the nobility, and the commoners, marked a pivotal moment in French history. The decision was intended to address the country's financial crisis, but instead unleashed a wave of revolutionary fervor. The Third Estate, representing the vast majority of the French population, declared itself the National Assembly and demanded sweeping reforms. The storming of the Bastille on July 14th, 1789, symbolized the beginning of the French Revolution. As the revolution gained momentum, Marie Antoinette became a lightning rod for popular anger. Her perceived extravagance, her Austrian heritage, and her attempts to negotiate with Austria, seeking support against the revolutionaries, made her a symbol of everything that was wrong with the old regime. The royal family was forced to leave Versailles and move to the Tuileries Palace in Paris, effectively becoming prisoners of the revolution. Their movements were restricted, and they were subjected to constant surveillance. In 1791, the royal family attempted to flee France in disguise, hoping to rally support from foreign powers and restore the monarchy. However, they were recognized and apprehended in Varennes, effectively shattering any remaining trust in the king and queen. The failed flight to Varennes dramatically increased public distrust and led to the abolition of the monarchy and the establishment of the First French Republic in 1792. Louis XVI was put on trial for treason and executed in January 1793. Following Louis XVI's execution, Marie Antoinette and her children, including her daughter Marie-Thérèse and son Louis-Charles, the Dauphin, were imprisoned in the Conciergerie, a grim Parisian prison. The conditions were harsh, and she endured relentless interrogation and psychological torment. The young Louis-Charles was separated from his mother and subjected to indoctrination and propaganda designed to turn him against her. His fate remained tragic and controversial. Marie Antoinette's trial began in October 1793. She was accused of treason, conspiracy, and depletion of the national treasury. The accusations were largely based on flimsy evidence and fueled by political animosity. Despite her dignified composure, she was convicted and sentenced to death by guillotine. Her final words, reportedly a simple plea for forgiveness, resonated with both condemnation and a glimmer of pity. On October 16th, 1793, Marie Antoinette was executed in the Place de la Révolution, now Place de la Concorde. Her death marked the end of a turbulent era and solidified her place in history as a symbol of both extravagance and tragic victimhood. Marie-Thérèse, Marie Antoinette's daughter, survived the revolution and eventually emigrated to Austria. She later published memoirs of her mother, offering a valuable, though inevitably biased, perspective on the Queen's life and character. In the centuries since her death, Marie Antoinette has been the subject of countless biographies, novels, plays, and films. Her story continues to fascinate and provoke debate, raising questions about power, privilege, and the responsibilities of leadership. While initially portrayed as a frivolous and heartless figure, modern historians have offered a more nuanced understanding of Marie Antoinette, recognizing her intelligence, resilience, and genuine affection for her adopted country. Her life serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the importance of empathy, and the enduring consequences of political and social inequality. She remains a figure of enduring historical significance,